My name is Kris from Permaculture Fx. I'm going to share a little bit with you for the next 20 minutes. If you are a farmer or a homesteader, whether that's on 0.22 acres or 222 acres, what are some great naturalized plants for Florida that you can grow to feed your livestock? I think one of the things that we all realized during the BC before COVID era was that it was really hard to get bagged feed. The other realization the last couple of years that I've had is the cost of bag feed, whether it's for chickens or ducks or cows or horses, is just going through the roof. So there's some really easy things that we are able to grow in zones 9 through 11, whether that's Florida or California, that we're able to really offset or sometimes even eliminate a lot of our feed cost by planting some more naturalized plants. Now I say naturalized because most of these are not necessarily native, but at the end of the day, cattle, chickens, and most of the livestock that we're growing are not native here as well. So what we're able to do is look across the globe and find some key plants that are not spreaders, that are not invasive, that are gonna be playing well in our ecosystem that we can add in to help us offset some of those feed costs. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you 7 or 8 of my absolute favorite plants to add into a home garden or a larger scale garden that you can use for animal feed. And I've grown in both of those scenarios. I've lived on a 0.22 suburban lot, and right now I live on 265 acres with 130 head of cattle, chickens and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and all things Florida. And this does work regardless of your scale. So the first plant that I want to recommend is always the funnest one for me because it's the one that triggers people the most, and it's bamboo. Now that is a hard one for people that are used to bamboos that are those runners and spreaders and take over the planet. Now bamboos, much like animals, there are 1,400 different varieties and species of bamboos, and many of them, especially in zones 9 through 11, are not runners and spreaders. In fact, they're clumpers. I have several friends that are in their 80s and they've had the same clump of bamboo for almost 50 years, and they're still 15 feet around in circumference, and they're not running and spreading. Now, the reason why I love bamboo in an animal forage system is because it is like a living mineral block for animals. It's very high in manganese, magnesium. Silica is one of the most important things that bamboo offers our animals, and this can be used on sheep, with goats, with horses, with cows, with llama, you name it across the board. They're gonna really enjoy that bamboo. Now, when animals eat bamboo, obviously they're not having to cook it. They're not dealing with some of those chemical constituents that are gonna cause upset, but they're gonna eat these bamboo leaves that are gonna help deliver silica to their body. Now, silica is really important on those larger animals, horses, and cattle, because that's really going to help increase collagen levels and the delivery of minerals to the animal system. So on a farm, I like to use the bamboos that are going to give you leaves a little bit lower, things like fern leaf or graceful, because the leaves are going to be lower and easier for the animals to forage. If I'm using it on the farm as a windbreak and I want something taller to separate, maybe 2 pastures, I want something like sea breeze that's still gonna be clumping, is gonna be edible, it's gonna be medicinal, but she's gonna have really tall, nice canes about 2 inches across, and the leaves will still be forageable for the animals. So bamboo would be my first plant that I would recommend. The second one is called Napier grass. Now some of them are gonna be in the burgundies, so they look really pretty as far as in the landscape, but these are 12% protein, which is a good protein level for the animals, and it's 58% digestible nutrients, and it does store well. So the animals can eat it fresh or dried. Now, what I love about Napier is that you get a lot of growth really fast. So for example, last year in April, I planted a 12-inch cutting in the ground from a single stem, and within 3 months, it was 17 feet tall. And the cattle can come through, or the horses can come through and eat that back again and again and again and again. And so you have this living source of hay that is going to last so much longer than St. Augustine or Bahia grass, which, by the way, are not natives anyway, but that's an anecdotal bunny trail. So plant number 3 that I would recommend is moringa. So this is native in Central Africa or in North India. Moringa is a fantastic source of protein, 27 to 29% protein. It has all 9 essential amino acids, very rich in minerals. Moringa leaves are edible, whether they're fresh or dried, for animals or for livestock. My chickens love moringa. They cannot get enough of it. Now, if you're growing moringa for animals, I use a coppicing or a pollarding method, which means instead of letting it be a tall, lanky tree, I just chop it off at the ground. Now, if it's for chickens, I'm literally cutting it back to 4 or 5 inches tall off the ground like a stump, 4, 5, 6 times a year. If it's for my own use, I probably pollard it so I get kind of a nice broom-shaped tree. But moringa, again, you can use fresh or dried for animals and livestock, or for humans. Now, for human consumption, this is a great anti-inflammatory. It has anti-cancer benefits, all 9 essential amino acids, very high in protein. It has the B vitamin full spectrum in there. So if you're on a vegan or a vegetarian diet, well, 1, you probably shouldn't be at Florida Meat Festival, but number 2, this is a great addition to add into your diet because you are getting the B vitamins, you are getting the proteins, you are getting those amino acids into your diet. I don't love the flavor of moringa, so I dry it as a powder and I add it 50-50 with Himalayan sea salt, and then I shake it up. You don't taste the moringa, and every time you use your salt on the counter, you get your dose of moringa. So I like to cheat and make it really easy. Plant number 4 is Mexican sunflower for animal forage and livestock. Now, this can be used fresh or dried as well. Animals are going to prefer this one a little more fresh. Now, you can use either of the 2 primary species of Mexican sunflower. If you want it to be really big and tall, to use it as a windbreak, I would use the Tithonia diversifolia because that's going to be grown really easily from a cutting. This is the best one for me on pasture edges and fence lines. If it's in the middle of a pasture, I want something that's going to self-seed. So in that case, I'm going to use Tithonia rotundifolia because that's going to self-seed again and again and again, and it's going to just spread through the pasture. So this is another good one, not only because of the nutrient value, it also is a good living mulch or living fertilizer for the pastures. So we grow these for pasture health because it uses a process called nitrification to help fix atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. It's a little bit different than the process a bean, pea, or legume would use, but the outcome is still the same, is that you're building biomass and you're adding nitrogen to your soil as well. Couple more plants that I would add in for animal forage. Number 5 would be pigeon pea. You can buy some really great organically grown seeds from Seed the Stars. They have a booth just around the corner here in an awesome Etsy shop. I've seen people even before go to Publix and get the Goya brand seeds and throw them. Now, I don't know about the quality of those, but you know, what's possible, you know, who knows. Now, pigeon pea, very high in protein. It's a good pollinator. For me, I use it mostly to repair nitrogen to the soil, and then I use it as a cattle chop salad to feed it to the cattle. Plant number 6 is mulberry. What kind of mulberry? Such a great question. Thanks for asking. Any kind of mulberry. You can use the native black Florida. You could use the Tice mulberry that's down in southern Florida. Even the northern varieties of mulberry, dwarf everbearing, Chiang Mai 60, dwarf Thai red, superberry, any of the mulberries are going to be fantastic. Now, the berries themselves are what I enjoy and my chickens absolutely love. There's nothing better entertainment than watching fluffy chicken butts jumping up and down, grabbing mulberries out of the trees. To me, that is absolutely fun for hours. But at the same time, not only are those berries really high in nutrients and antioxidants, anthocyanins, but the leaves of the plant also have a lot of those same medicinal properties, and that's usable for cattle, for livestock. We use them for horses, for goats, for sheep, for llamas, pretty much anybody across the board. I've used it with alpaca before. Will really enjoy those mulberry leaves. And the nice thing about mulberry, it is so resilient. They can eat it down to a stub and the mulberry is still gonna come back and be able to give its gift again. So mulberry is plant number 6. Plant number 7 we use both for pollinators, but also for the medicinal qualities is passion vine. Now most cattle and livestock are not gonna forage this on the regular because it's actually not good for them, to have full access to, but they'll use it as a relaxant, especially during calving season or during mating season. The leaves of the passion vine, even the native one, Passiflora incarnata, is great for relaxation, similar to chamomile tea, but it does the same for cattle. So it really helps regulate those cattle cortisol levels and the stress hormones. Plant number 8, this will be the last one that we cover, is sugarcane. So if you are trying to go fully off-grid with your cattle and your livestock, those of you that have cows or sheep or goats know that those sugar contents are essential for the rumen of the animals. That's why many farmers will use sweet feed or use molasses with their mineral blocks, because those healthy sugars help create a good biome in the rumen or of the animals. So a good alternative to that would be growing sugarcane. Now this grows awesome on pond edges, in ditches, in swales, and the cattle can eat this all the way down. Their body will use those digestible fibers to really help increase the health of their rumen, which what that means at the end of the day is they're absorbing the nutrients from everything else that they eat in a much better and a much healthier way. Now, because sugarcane is in that grass family, it's gonna grow like a grass. So it's gonna grow really well during the rainy season when we need it the most. And then it's gonna slowly taper off during the winter months. But again, I grow this like on pond edges where the cattle have access to it, and they can eat it all the way to the ground, and it comes back in such a beautiful, wonderful way. So the reason why we wanna share some of these plants is not only because we think it's good for our local ecosystem and for the native pollinators, the native wildlife habitat, but it's also a great way for us in Central Florida to start getting away from bagged feed, from genetically modifying grains and corns and that sort of thing, and to start doing cattle and livestock in a way that's a good fit for here in Central Florida. So thank you so much.